Ready? Good evening. I'm going to call the September 8th regular board meeting to order. Director Douglas, can you please take roll?
Certainly. Director Shoemaker.
Here.
Director Wyatt.
Here.
Director Salvaggio.
Here.
Vice Chair Vidal. Here. Chair Sloop.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome as we start the school year off since our last board meeting. And I'm going to ask Jennifer Spencer-Ions to come up and introduce the principals.
It's always so exciting when we get to welcome our students back to board meetings. I just want to introduce the three acting principals tonight because Nick Chapin is out on family leave. So we have the wonderful assistant principal, Carrie Wilhelm, who's acting in that role. We'll be introducing our first student from Riverside. And then we'll have Trevor Mena, our principal from West Linn High School. And then Jocelyn McIntyre, our principal at Wilsonville, who you will hear more about a little later in the evening. So Carrie, could you start us off?
Good evening. I'm so happy to be here to introduce our student speaker for the year. Her name is Apollonia Munoz, and she is a junior at Riverside. She is one of our IB diploma candidates. She is on our tennis team. She is the editor-in-chief of the Gazette, which is our school newspaper, and she's involved in a variety of other things. So we are so excited to have her this year as our board speaker. Apollonia.
Thank you for everyone here. My name is Apollonia Munoz, and I'm currently a junior at RHS. And I transferred here my sophomore year from Riverdale because I was drawn to the IB diploma program, and I wanted to challenge myself with a more holistic approach on learning and focus not only on academics, but also service, creativity, and the ethical implications of my actions on the world. I've always loved a smaller school environment, and Riverside is perfect because we have such a small student body. This makes it really easy to join a bunch of extracurriculars, get really acquainted with other students, and also get to know the staff a lot better. I am on the tennis team, treasurer of Rotary Interact, secretary of Asian Culture Club, editor-in-chief of the school newspaper, and a member of NHS and ISEF. This year, I'm most looking forward to writing with the Oregonian, volunteering at a local hospital, and also I'm going to Boston in the summer because I'm the Oregon delegate for the U.S. Future Medical Leaders, and also all my IB classes. And in the future, I hope to pursue a career as a psychiatrist and maybe publish some research or even a book. And the start of the new year, there's been so many new faces, both staff and students. And our League Crew Orientation Day was held over 2 days and organized by Mr. Shishido. On the 20th, returning RHS student volunteers came to a training session to learn some fun games and icebreaker activities. On the 21st, we all eagerly awaited the 9th grade class and broke into a series of groups to help meet their classmates and also learn about the school's culture and academics. This was a great way for them to get acquainted with the upperclassmen and create a seamless transition into high school. The fall sports season is also underway. We have a boys soccer team and a girls team combined with Riverdale, and we also have volleyball and cross country. Our two girls players, Kaya and Amelia, have brought the team to victory every time. And meanwhile, our boys soccer team has also had amazing results and recently brought home a win on September 3rd against Lapine and won a staggering 9-0. Their most recent game on Saturday against Blanchette, however, was tough, but we were able to score 1 goal and we lost 1-3. This year, we are lucky enough to have 5 seniors on the team who have brought many great leadership skills and sportsmanship. Our cross-country team is also dedicated and raced at Wilsonville High School on August 29th, and this past weekend completed the Ultimuk, where runners ran through a series of forest trails, river crossings, and a mud pit. These meets and practices have resulted in some fun experiences and team bonding. Lastly, our volleyball team has been working hard on the court and took home a win against Manahouse Christian University. So far, our athletes have been having a great season, and I wish them the best of luck. And for the first time in Riverside's history, we have seniors. With the arrival of a new freshman class, the former juniors are now our seniors. They have many fun events planned, such as a car fundraiser on October 4th, and also recently had their senior sunrise on the first day of school. It went really well from what I've heard, and there was bingo, hot chocolates, donuts, and apple cider. One senior I spoke with said it wasn't the best sunrise, but it was really fun to get to see everyone and start the year off strong. This winter, from December 4th through 6th, Miss Roberts and the RHS theater students will put on a production of Little Women, which, according to Paige Jackson, the stage manager and thespian president, the representation will be accurately feature all of the regular characters such as Amy, Jo, Meg, Beth, and Lori. Our drama department's main goal is to hone in on the four sisters and to build the chemistry of those who are casted. Auditions will be held on September 9th and 10th. Another upcoming event we have planned is our curriculum night. And on September 15th at 6 p.m., parents and guardians are invited to walk around their students' classes and meet their teachers. In addition to that, there will be two short informational sessions led by staff members so the parents can learn more about the different programs such as the CTE and IB pathways and get support with communication tools like Parent View, Parent Square, and Google Classroom. There are also specific sessions for freshmen and senior parents. At RHS, we have so many great clubs to choose from, and if you don't find one that meets your interest, you can work with either Miss Wilhelm or another staff member to create one. That's something I did last year when I started the Riverside Gazette. With the help of one of my favorite teachers, I was able to bring together 20 dedicated students to put an online paper together that is published monthly. The clubs offered at RHS range from HOSA, Asian Culture Club, Art Club, to NHS and Business Club. They're a great way to meet new people that share similar interests with you and a way to get involved with the school community. Last year, we had around a 70% participation rate in some kind of extracurricular activity in the student body, whether that was a sport or a club. And this year, we hope that number increases. The club fair is a nice way to walk around and learn a bit about each club and determine whether you want to join or not. Our club fair will take place on September 25th during our access period. And we've already had a very promising start to the school year, and I hope it translates to a good year as a whole. Riverside has many things to look forward to in September and the months to come, and I can't wait to update the board next month what happens. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Trevor Mena, principal at Westland High School, and it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this year at our board meetings. That is our ASB president, Mr. Brody Olson. Not only is Brody our ASB president, and not only has he narrated several videos for the whole school, including on sportsmanship and student rights and responsibilities. He has also led, I think, already 4 assemblies and helped introduce our staff and do some staff icebreaker activities to start the year. On top of all that, he will be starring on the stage in our upcoming production of Fiddler on the Roof. So without further ado, let me please welcome Mr. Brody Olson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mena. Good evening, members of the school board and district administration. It's an absolute pleasure to be standing with you all here today. My name is Brody Olson, Westland High School's ASB president. Before I start off, I would like to relay how grateful I am to personally update you on all of our school and the accomplishments of our student body. Now, let's jump right into it. Before the year even began, ASB met for 10 days to plan and get everything ready. We hosted breakfast for the staff and were a part of their professional development, creating original ChatGPT cheers and tie-dyeing t-shirts. We were incredibly busy making videos and preparing assemblies to help fellow classmates and admin navigate new policies throughout the school year. ASB decorated the school with our iconic green and gold colors, as well as posters hung throughout the campus. The 9th grade orientation was a blast, the grade level assemblies went smoothly, and our senior sunrise was one to remember. And our first football game against Kamehameha, we had our first student section roaring as we dominated 48-21. And just last Friday, the cast list for our fall musical Fiddler on the Roof was posted. We're looking forward to our upcoming children's cancer and breast cancer charity events, as well as our homecoming. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really excited to share the new chapters of Westland High School with you all every month. Have a wonderful evening.
Hello, my name is Jocelyn McIntyre. I'm the interim principal at Wilsonville High School. Our ASB president, Ryan Williams, and vice president, Riddick Molitar, are actively involved in our football program, and so this fall it will be difficult for them to attend some of these meetings. Have no fear. The fill-in is Avery Eckley, and she is amazing. She is our senior class president and our chief editor of our magazine and newspaper. I've only had the opportunity to have one real conversation with her, and already I can tell through that experience she is very student-centered, and one of her goals, as I was talking with them about this presentation, is really trying to build community and connection for all of our students. And so I have no doubt she's going to be an amazing leader for us. So, Avery Eckley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Avery Eckley, and I'm a senior at Wilsonville High School. Thank you so much for this opportunity to allow us to come and share about our schools. I have a slightly different format of preparing for you guys tonight, so we're going to try to get through as many slides as possible. So who are we? Who is the Wilsonville community? I believe that we are community-driven, academically exceptional, athletically competitive, musically inclined, and beautifully diverse. ASB has leaders of the halls, classrooms, community, and school-associated events, which I think is important for showing up on all aspects. Our representatives, as you have heard, are Ryan Williams, our ASB president, Riddick Molitor, ASB vice president, and myself, the senior class council president. So I hope that you guys will have the chance to hear from them later in the year as well. Here are some recent highlights. Our fall sports are in full swing, so we concluded our first week of competitions with girls soccer 2-1 versus Tualatin, boys soccer 1-1 versus Southridge in a tie game, football this past Friday against Sandy 34-27, and shout out to our cheer and dance teams as well. We are coming off of big state wins. Football is going for our 3rd state title, and our girls soccer is going for 5, which is outstanding. Life class has been going very well this year. It is an advisory period that I think has been a new adjustment to our school. We will have the same teacher, classroom, and group of students for all 4 years, which allows us to build connection with that environment. Access has been received very well as students are able to go to teachers and receive help from classes that they specifically need. In addition, we also produce life class videos, which are produced by our WBN program, which have weekly announcements, and there are daily lessons and sessions that students are taught that teach you college prep, how to build your resume, finding job opportunities, scholarships, receiving tutoring or extra support, personal reflections, and grade checks. Assemblies will also occur during this time, so it is not disruptive to any other period. Our cross-country night meet, as our Riverside representative also mentioned, was a huge accomplishment. It was held on August 29th, hosted by our high school. The student coverage and late night bonding was tremendous, and it was probably the largest one held in Oregon in multiple years. With 2,170 entries and about 60 teams competing, it was an outstanding event that we are grateful and blessed to have had the opportunity to host. The phone ban is a very new policy for our school, and I believe that it is something important to touch on and how the students have interpreted that. It states that no portable or personal electronic devices are allowed on school campus between the hours of 8:30 and 3:05 p.m. This includes passing periods and lunch, which is very new for all of us, but the student responses have been respectful and obliging. People are actively learning how to communicate again, which is central to our importance in high school. Some of the teacher responses have also been very positive. As one of our teachers mentioned, education has been more productive and timely more than ever with phones out as a distraction or a crutch. On the first day, 49 phones were collected, and by the end of the week, only 14 phones had been taken, which is a huge improvement. The freshman class has actually set a very nice example as well, coming in very well taught to keep their phones and devices away all day. So it has been an easy transition from the middle schools. On the first warning, students are allowed to pick up their phones at the end of the day, but after the second warning and after October 1st, parents will have to come pick up the devices. It has been a quick turnaround, and it has required a holistic accountability between the administrators and students, but everyone has done a really great job. Here are a couple of challenges. Navigating the technology use, we have had to adapt in some of our digital arts, leadership, and WBN classes, but we will be provided school authorized iPads, which will allow us to continue to do technological work without phones. AI in classrooms is still a prominent issue, including academic integrity, but I think we are doing a lot more moving from online to textbooks and on-paper learning, which has been great. There's an over-reliance on technology, which inhibits critical thinking skills, and AI can be used as a tool and creates digital masterpieces, but it is also important that we have hands-on learning in school, and so I think Wilsonville has done a great job navigating this as well. What's coming up? So homecoming is a big deal for us. It's coming up earlier this year, held on September 27th. We will have a parade and home game. The theme is Once Upon a Homecoming. So we have Disney-themed floats that the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade classes are preparing currently. The club fair, as mentioned as well, we have a club fair, which is a great opportunity for students to experience and test out what they would like to do and challenge themselves in their high school careers. There's a range of involvement opportunities, including volunteering, leadership roles, collaborative communities, specified education, and exploring personal interests. It will be held during our life class. Upcoming home games, this is just a list of some upcoming dates with football, boys soccer, girls soccer, volleyball, the cross-country meet, which is the NWOC League meet on September 17th, along with unified soccer, which is starting up. The musical and arts programs, auditions for our musical Mary Poppins are on September 8th, which is tonight. So wish them all luck as they go into their auditions. Our choir band and orchestra are preparing for winter concerts and state competitions. And our band is very involved with every varsity level game and performing on Friday night football games. And we'd also love to shout out our ISEF and robotics programs as well, as they are underway in amazing projects. What are we encouraging? Student body participation. Again, from a holistic perspective, we want to show up as leaders. We want to make things exciting and worth showing up for. One of our mantras is to create a sense of FOMO, not in a negative connotation, but the fear of missing out of amazing high school experiences that we have to offer for every student, including the freshmen. We had a very successful 9th grade orientation as well, and I think it was a great way to kickstart the year. Along with hosting our very first 9th grade only assembly at the beginning of the year, which introduced the 9th graders how to participate in games, how to and where to sit on assemblies so that they feel included and prepared when it comes time to celebrate as an entire school body. We also would like to progress in connecting more with our local middle schools, meaning that our WBN team specifically wants to go in possibly on a curriculum night or get permission to speak with the students and get them involved with high school programs such as the newspaper and other athletics, teach them how to get more involved with the high school from that early stage. The student involvement and community outreach is being led right now by John David Green, who is a member of our leadership class this year, and he is really stepping into the charity part of community outreach. Also, very encouraged by West Lynn's charity outreach. We have been very much supported by Ms. McIntyre and her resources with West Linn High School, which we look up to as we drive to do more service opportunities such as Shriners International Pediatric Care, Wounded Warriors Project, Make-A-Wish, and Football Mania, which will be coming soon. And the recent news, we would like to be publishing more content in Spanish. We have a very large population of our school who are Hispanic, and we want to do as much as we can to include everyone and continue driving all of our community to every event. We want to take feedback from admin, students, and outside voices for how we can continue to improve our school and the nature of how we portray our school. Introducing our new principal, Ms. McIntyre. We really appreciate how she has stepped in as our interim into something completely new, but she has done it gracefully, and we can tell that she will serve us with confidence and competence. So thank you so much for your time tonight, and we are excited to continue the school year.
Thank you so much for your presentations and reports. And on behalf of the board, we're appreciative, and we look forward to hearing you at the each monthly board meeting. So, and as the tradition goes, you are free to leave because we know that you guys have busy schedules, or if you want to listen to board business later. But
Could I just
That's-
add something, Chair
Yes.
Sloop? Wow, you guys have just set the bar for student reports this year. That was phenomenal. Thank you so much for representing your school so beautifully, for becoming so prepared. We have a little token for each of you for tonight, just because we know how much time and effort you put into these, and your courage, and just representing your school so beautifully. Our theme for this school year is moving forward together. And I think each of you spoke to that in your own way, very student-centric around what that means for you building culture and spirit and excitement among your peers. So thank you so much, and we look forward to all your presentations. And Avery, you can come back even if the other two are here, and just keep them on task or something. Yeah. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
moving on to recognitions. Dr. Spencer Iams, do we have principals to recognize?
Thank you so much. We had a couple of illness situations, and so we're going to put off the two primary school principals till next month, and want to make sure everyone feels well and healthy when they come. But that gives us a great opportunity to come back to Ms. McIntyre. But before I do that, I mean, come on. How fantastic are our student leaders? When anyone starts to feel a little discouraged, I say, go spend some time with our students. Whether it's at primary school, middle school, or high school, you will feel inspired. They are so amazing. So I just thank you for recognizing that, Dr. Ludwig. And it was wonderful to hear Avery call out Principal McIntyre. So we're going to call Principal McIntyre up. Come on up. She loves being put on the spot, but here we go. It's my great pleasure to introduce Wilsonville's principal, Jocelyn McIntyre, interim principal this year. Jocelyn's core approach to leadership is one of a coach. She started out as a coach, and she thinks about the work often through that coaching lens. And we know that a great coach really builds team culture, recognizes the talents, and finds the right contribution areas for each team member, really helps build a common vision, and then helps give effective feedback to help everyone get there. And these are all the things that when you spend any time with Jocelyn, you see her doing in real time. She builds that culture. She collaboratively works on that vision for outstanding learning for each and every student. Jocelyn is a systems thinker who actively, this one paraphrases, levels up those around her. She gets the joy of working in these small cities that we call high schools, and while continuing to value the personal connection with each student, every staff member, and each parent that she gets to meet. Jocelyn served as an assistant principal at Westland High School for 4 years, so she knows our district systems and colleagues really well. Prior to that, she served as an assistant principal in Estacada School District and worked for many years as an instructional coach, an ELD teacher, and a classroom science teacher in North Clackamas schools. We are over the moon that she was willing to step into this role this year on short notice with such grace, effectiveness, and commitment. So please join me in welcoming Jocelyn McIntyre.
This is the time where board members may want to make a comment or express their welcome. And then if you have anything, Principal McIntyre, that you'd like to say of just what the first few weeks on the job have been like, we'd love to hear from you if you.
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited about this opportunity, being able to be put in a position like this to do continual learning for me. This is, to me, a great chance for me to put into action some skills and ways of thinking kind of on my own. And so I love the challenge. It feels great to be back at school, to have kids in the hallways, to be engaged with teachers. I think in-service landed really well. I worked really well with our admin team over the summer. We got to connect with our building leadership team over the summer and really landed on a beautiful, concise, what our why, what, and how is, and felt really good about sharing that out with all staff, getting everybody kind of all aligned, moving in the same direction. We received some great feedback from staff. Anytime we're implementing a new policy, like a phone policy, that can be worrisome for staff. And I think they felt really good about the clarity that we were able to distribute early on, and really having a clear path forward in terms of how this is going to roll out. So I think we set them up to feel confident, to be engaged with it. I've seen a complete collective effort by everyone in the building in terms of supporting this policy and really leaning into the importance of being present for learning. It is not just something admin are responsible for doing, but everybody is stepping to it. I think students are seeing that impact. And as Avery had shared, we're seeing significant decline over time. And so students are making the adjustment. We know that they can. They're flexible in their thinking. And as a result, teachers are already seeing increased engagement in the classroom. We're getting those comments already from teachers. And the beautiful thing that we're seeing at lunchtime is kids are talking to one another. I no longer am seeing, 8 kids sitting around a table all looking at their own phones and nobody's talking. Instead, they're engaging with one another. And so the volume is higher, and we're happy with that. So all in all, I think the beginning of the year has felt really good. I hope students and families and teachers are feeling the same way. And I'm just excited to continue to learn. Every new month, there's new challenges and new things that I'm like, okay, all right, this is something new that I've got to figure out how to do. So it's a lot of new things, and I feel great about it, surrounded by a really solid team, and everyone seems to be coming together nicely. So.
Thank you. Any comments from board members? Yeah.
So we had a chance to meet last year when I was assigned to Westland High School as my school. And one thing I was just so excited to hear about your appointment as interim, because you just had such a influence on recognizing when we were looking at our graduating class where we needed to pay attention to students who were at risk. And I felt like I learned from you how that monitoring starts in 9th grade, and how we really use data and use connections with our students really well. And so knowing that someone with such a data-driven mindset, but then also authentic connection making, just beyond pleased that you're here, and really glad. Know that you learned from an amazing principal, from Trevor. And so really excited that you're able to take the helm of Wilsonville. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm happy to get to know you this year. I live in Wilsonville, and so I just wanted to say, go Cats.
Heck yeah. I'm returning home. I lived in Wilsonville for a number of years. My kids went to Beckman, they went to Wood. My son graduated from Wilsonville High School. My daughter ended up graduating from West Linn, but it feels good, and it feels like I'm kind of coming back home. I love the community of Wilsonville, so.
I'll just say quickly how much we appreciate the work you're doing and how you just jumped in. I still have a few contacts who tell me things once in a while, and they're just really, really pleased with your what feels like just such a strong commitment to both staff and students. And I mean, that's really felt. So thank you.
Thank you.
New microphone. Just wanted to say thank you very much. I really appreciated hearing your description of a kind of a bottom-up, objective-oriented approach to outlining what you and your staff are doing and what your mission is. And it sounds like you're on the right track, and just much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I will close out saying thank you for stepping up into your position, and we value your expertise that you bring, and looking forward to seeing how the school does this year. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Levick?
And I'm just going to add, Jocelyn, there's not much more I could say that Jennifer hasn't captured and board members other than just thank you. And you and I have had talks on many occasions about your leadership work. And I think I remember us leaning over the railing at a basketball game one time, and I said, I could see you as a superintendent even someday. And you said, I think I'd first have to be principal, right? And I said, well, you
That's
could
a good first step.
get a first step. And so here you are. And thank you for stepping up. And right away, there's been comments by staff that they just feel it's been a seamless transition. Having you already at West Linn has really helped with that. You know the systems and the people. And now it's just a matter of trading your lion hat for your wildcat hat. And I know you've already done that because I've seen you in the hallways and you've got your gear on, and your students are your students. And if there's anything I know about you is you love them fiercely. So thank you so much. And I look forward to many conversations together over different railings because we'll be cheering for different team. But thank you so much.
Thank you again for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
You earned it. Yeah.
Here I am back one more time tonight, and I'm very excited for our next recognition. But before I get to that, I just want to say a thank you to Kelly Schmidt for the years that she served as principal. She left, it all went kind of quickly right there at the end of the year. So we barely felt like we got to thank her. And then to also thank Dan Shoemaker. And I'm just thinking about all the great Wilsonville principals I've known. That Jocelyn is coming in a fine line of great principals at Wilsonville and leadership. So thank you so much. So there was a theme in all three of our high school student reports tonight. Many of them talked about sports and activities, right? That's a big part of what they're talking about as what they see as important in their experiences as students. It's so much more than the classroom at the high school level. And we could not do the things that we're doing in our high schools without a lot of other players and supports to create those experiences for students. And there is perhaps no one more key to that than the next person that we're going to honor. And that is Peter Weber, the Executive Director of OSAA. Thanks, Peter. So I'm going to share a few words about Peter, and then we'll let him appear. Also, his wonderful wife, Jill, is here tonight as well. So Jill, who also lives in our community, thank you so much for coming, Jill. So Peter Weber has been the Executive Director of OSAA since 2016. Yes. And when he was appointed by their board, and has served in other roles in OSAA before that since 1999. So he brings so much expertise to this work. And prior to that, he was Director of Alumni and Public Relations at Central Catholic. So he knows what it's like to be within a school as well. So there's a few things we can't honor all the work he's done because we're going to pull out a couple of important ones right now. So go ahead to the next slide. Just in case you don't know what OSAA is because you're new to the school board, or maybe you haven't had kids in high school sports yet, it is the Oregon School Athletics and Activities Association. And this is the mission that they work to achieve. And it's a large team of folks. Maybe not large, but a team of folks. A team of folks. But Peter is at the helm of that team, helping OSAA lean into this in really powerful ways. And on the next slide, you realize the challenge of that work is there are so many different schools and districts that we're representing. So from schools that are right in the heart of Portland to schools that are way out in rural Eastern Oregon that may have different ideas or things they're trying to accomplish, but they all want their kids to have a great experience. So Peter is a master at representing people that are coming with different ideas and opinions. How do we get them together and stay focused on the outcomes for kids? Also, you might know that there are 19 different sports and activities that OSAA oversees. So you might automatically think of most of our sports, but it's also music competitions, band, choir, orchestra, speech and debate competitions, dance and cheer, alongside most of the sports that our students do are governed by OSAA. So when we think about Peter's role, I like to think about it in these 4 buckets, that a big part of OSAA is that partnership that strengthens our community. I was at the football game at Wilsonville on Friday. It was such an example of community coming together in so many different ways that sports provides for us, whether it's our folks from local civic organizations, parents, folks that just enjoy seeing our students. So those partnerships really strengthen our communities. And then the second big one is really providing great learning experiences for our students. So I want to show a couple pictures of 1 and 2, and then we're going to get into 3 and 4 a little deeper. So as I said before, we have state champion students every year in our music programs, in band, in orchestra, in choir. We also have students who don't earn a championship, but have a great experience because they work hard and they dig in and they learn how to connect and they learn how to challenge themselves in the thing they're passionate about. We have had sports that sometimes bring national attention, which can be really fun for a community. So, you know, I just had to throw Peyton up there. Going to the next picture, or as Avery mentioned today, sometimes we have had some sports where they've experienced long-term success. This was the 4-peat of Wilsonville girls soccer. And we have kids just out running hard every single day. There might be some familiar faces out there of students from different schools getting the chance to come together and compete and try their best and challenge themselves in new and exciting ways. We talked about the football game, so I'm going to go to the next one. So I want to linger just for a minute on 3 and 4, because these are some pieces where Peter has really stepped up in incredible ways to lead within our state. And number 3, as a school board last year, you did incredible, courageous work to really dig into what does being anti-racist, what does it look like to make sure every student feels belonging and that we continue to create a roadmap for our community to know what to do if they do experience any situations of bias. Well, Peter has led that same kind of work through the OSAA, which again is amongst 200 schools all over the state. And the 4th one is about creating more inclusive cultures, and part of that is through unified sports. So let's look at number 3 for a second. The next slide is going to violate everything you ever learned about PowerPoint, right? Don't put too many words. I'm not going to read it to you. I just wanted to give you a flavor of one of the many parts of building this standard of sportsmanship and care. One of those is called the STAR program, and it has many parts to it. And part of it is every single OSAA game starts with an announcement like this, where we are setting those expectations. Much like Jocelyn was talking about, when we teach the kids the expectations before the events, they do much better living into them, right? So let's keep holding that, being clear about, we know we can have kids that enjoy and community that can come together thinking about safety, tolerance, acceptance, and respect. And I love the very last line. Can you see it down there? Greatness is hateless. So that real theme that they've brought through in OSAA. It has more parts to the STAR program than that announcement, but you'll see those posters in all of our venues, and these announcements are made every single game. They also work to outline what are the steps. They call it the action plan, take action against bias. So that if you're in the stands and you notice someone yelling inappropriate things towards a student or an official, we all need to get involved and take action, clarify those expectations, teach, inform, observe, and notify so that we can follow up and make sure our communities where we're watching sports reflect the same values that we want reflected in our schools. So this has been a big campaign, and we really thank Peter for his work against bias, and it's been brave and courageous work. One of the other big pieces is that OSAA has been a key leader in supporting unified sports, which has opened up participation to interscholastic sports in a new way for a population that by and large was excluded from those opportunities in the past. This is one's really heartfelt for me. The first couple years I was involved in unified sports was before OSAA was involved with it. So it would be, you know, this teacher over here calling a teacher over in another school begging, could we find a time to have a game? Can anyone get a gym? I don't know. How do you get on the gym schedule? You know, it was all very difficult. When Peter and the OSAA got involved, they elevated unified sports so that those scheduling decisions are made by the athletic directors in the athletic director meetings, which is a total game changer. And it has really committed and improved the experience for students so much. They've also worked with unified champion schools to have at many state tournaments to find an opportunity to feature unified sports at existing state tournament venues so more people can understand and more students can benefit from those opportunities. This is a little quote. I actually have the full letter for you here, Peter. But one of our coaches from Unified from Wilsonville High School took some time to write down what it has meant to him to have Peter's voice leading the work around increasing access through unified sports for all students. So Bryn Card, who's a learning specialist at Wilsonville High School and has coached Unified there for a number of years, really expressing his appreciation. But I think you're going to be most excited about the next slide. This is a student who will introduce himself. Kellen Kirschman. This is Kellen Kirschman, who just graduated in June. Keller Kirschman. I love that. It's so authentic. It's his dorm room. You can see the mattress thing above. So in conclusion, Peter is someone that I've been able to call when something new comes up and I don't know how to navigate it. When I newly became connected with high schools and overseeing high schools and found out how many of those questions involve sports. He has been a great resource and someone who will always connect and be a thought partner moving forward. So Peter, we just want to thank you for your leadership, for your commitment to sportsmanship and building community and experiences for all students. Thank you.
maybe we'll hear from board members first, and then we do have a plaque for you, Peter, and a photo op that we'll want to organize. So board members, we'll let you start.
I want to thank you so much for your work. There's a lot I could say as someone who did coaching and working in schools, but I think the best compliment I can give, I think, is that the organization through you has been so good at listening to member schools, sometimes through our ADs, but also through our athletes. And the way that you have evolved as an organization has a lot to do with your willingness to listen to all the constituent groups that are involved. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Dan.
Dr. Spencer Iams mentioned your work against bias, but I think that that should be replaced as leadership against bias. And the amount of appreciation that I have for how strong you've been and how strong OSAA has been in welcoming all students into sports and activities, I can't express it adequately enough, because it takes a leader to stand up, especially against some of the hysteria that we've seen in the last year. And for you to be so clear about saying that all students can belong in our sports and activities is tremendous. And so thank you for being a leader.
Thank you. I just like to say that my wife is involved in making logistics work between schools for various events, and so I understand the intense frustration that it takes to make it look effortless. And thank you very much. And the video that we saw of that student just kind of indicates that you've planted some very wonderful seeds in this district and around the state, and makes me think about how many students out there maybe didn't send a video, but you've left already quite an enduring legacy. So thank you for that. Thank you.
I think we know how much sports really means to our students. But I think, especially in Wilsonville and West Linn, it means so much to our communities, and it brings us together, and it brings us so much pride. And so I just want to thank you for helping us create this wonderful culture that we're all so proud of and that we all get so excited about. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your leadership. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how much effort and your leadership has done for the unified sports. I have a very close family whose son has participated in the basketball for unified sports. And it just creates an incredible opportunity for these students with special needs to be a part of a team and play with their peers, and probably something that they hadn't expected. And I also think it brings the community, the schools, the students, the families, everyone together. And I so appreciate your efforts in that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just going to echo what's been shared. And Jennifer, thank you for really encapsulating so much of the core tenets of what your leadership has brought, Peter. OSAA is a completely renewed and strengthened organization in the last 10 years because of your leadership. And I think that STAR program is one indication of someone saying, let's just not hope and wish that things go well at games. Let's actually get in front of this. Let's put a framework together. Let's set an expectation, work with athletic directors and coaches, and actually make it happen. And I think Oregon is a star example of what athletics and activities can look like in a state and in public education. And your willingness to do that boldly, courageously, systematically, but also your relationships with superintendents, with school districts, with other organizations like COSA, your involvement makes you approachable and known. And there's an element of trust and integrity, and people are drawn to your vision and your leadership and have such great confidence that you're going to be organized and it's going to be managed and thoughtfully executed. I remember having extraordinary admiration for you during COVID when we were all working through the ins and outs of that at a school. And there's also this tremendous pressure that kids need activities. And how do we make that happen during a pandemic? And you led beautifully through all of that as well, with just such clarity and vision and listening as a key component of that. Recently, you spoke to, again, all of the superintendents in Oregon, and you outlined a guide for athletic directors and school districts around interrupting bias and shared that with across the whole state. So again, an example of just taking that step forward and putting things into action. I thank you for that and for your work with Unified Sports. I often get out to games and activities, and Peter's there, and we only represent 3 high schools in all of Oregon. And it's not uncommon for, if you call OSAA, for folks to say Peter's out at a school. And he knows every single school district, all of the superintendents, the athletic directors. He knows how important pride is in every community, and that students want to feel a sense of belonging and be connected to some type of activity in athletics. So thank you for your commitment to the organization. Thank you for leading us so courageously and so expertly over these years. And we're just honored to have you as our executive director for the state of Oregon with OSAA. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the recognition and the kind words. It does take a village to make this happen. I have a tremendous staff that I work with. I've had some great mentors along my journey in my career. Obviously, I have a tremendous support at home as well with my wife and our boys. I think what's special about this for me is this is our community. So my wife and I live in Wilsonville. We had a son graduate. He'll be a sophomore at Oregon State this year. We have a son who's a junior at Wilsonville. Played baseball with Keller Kirschman last year, so that was fun to see him and appreciate that. But I think for me, the driving force has always been about doing what we can at OSAA to provide opportunities for students to do the things they love to do. And I think if we can just continue to keep that at the forefront, that we're probably on a pretty good path. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Here.
West Linn-Wilsonville School District and Board of Directors recognizes Peter Weber, OSAA, Oregon School Activities Association, with sincere thanks and appreciation for your service, support, and care for all Oregon students, and specifically the West Linn-Wilsonville school community. Thank you.
Should be okay.
All right, moving right along. We are now board reports. Director Shoemaker, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty quick tonight. I'm very happy to be here in person versus last time when I was watching. And I want to thank Kelly Douglas for, in real time, forwarding my responses that I was texting her to say aye. I want to just recognize that as we've started the school year and there's a lot of lifting for that to happen. And I'm acutely aware that not just in our district, but in lots of places, people are doing more. There's a lot of more happening right now. We have a lot of teachers with more students. We have a lot of support staff who are supporting more people. We have a lot of people at the district office who are taking on greater roles. I just want to recognize that that's being done, and that the state of funding is causing that to happen, and will continue to cause that to happen as we do that 49-51 formula that anticipates a 2% increase in another year, when the reality is it'll be a 7% increase in our costs. And then we are not the only district experiencing that. And there are a lot of ways and a lot of departments, and I see people representing a lot of departments here tonight who are just doing more with little less. And I have yet to hear anybody complain. They're just buckling down and going forward. I also want to say that the many students I've seen in the last couple of weeks are as happy as students can be. They're glad to be back in school, and they're happy for having the teachers they have and seeing their friends and going to work. And so I wanted to just recognize that work that's being done and thank our staff for that work. That's it.
And I will save the majority of my updates for toward the end of the meeting when we do our bond update. So I will pass it along.
I'll just want to first make a quick update in saying that the kindergarten class of Willamette, and specifically Miss Aguilar's class, is certainly an amazing place to be, because my own 5-year-old has just absolutely taken to it in just a week, and all signs point to everyone doing their job very, very well. In terms of the general legislative and policy picture, not as rosy. Oregon received a revenue forecast on August 27th, where the forecast was down. Our tax code, just to remind everyone, is tied to federal income tax definitions. So given that there's some federal tax cuts that are going to be realized, the state is going to see an expected dip of $888 million in state revenue. And this puts, if it's unaddressed, takes the 25 to 27 biennial budget, which formerly had about a $400 million cushion, down to $373 million in the red. We do have a little over $3 billion in the Education Stability Fund as a state. But we also are going to be experiencing direct federal cuts to healthcare programs, not so much to the Oregon Department of Education, but direct cuts to things like SNAP benefits and Medicaid benefits are going to be squeezing K-12 budgets for the districts that rely on those. The next forecast is November 19th. And in the meantime, I've spoken with a number of lawmakers and people at the local level who are all balancing whether they should be accessing reserves, disconnecting from the federal tax code, making budget cuts, or increasing revenue. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of those options on the table. And what that means for our district, it's too early to tell. But sorry, Dan, it's not going to be as rosy as 49-51. It's going to be less rosy. On a more local level, I'll just pipe up and say that those same conversations with the state lawmakers and local officials have revealed a lot of enthusiasm about the upcoming bond. And as always, eligible voters can register or update their registration online at oregonvotes.gov. and that election will be November 4th.
Thank you so much. I appreciate Director Shoemaker and Director Salvaggio's comments on the dire budget situation that we have coming up. I wanted to welcome all of our students and families and teachers back to school, and thank the Stafford Hamlet for hosting a meet and greet for elected officials this past weekend. It was really nice to meet the neighbors in that area and to connect with elected officials. All of us will be going out to curriculum nights to meet families and teachers. We'll also be attending PTA meetings as well to discuss the bond that Director Salvaggio mentioned and that Director Wyatt will be talking more about tonight. I'm also excited about achieving our 2025-26 board goals this year that we read at August's board meeting. But when I look to the future, I also am thinking a lot about AI, which 2 of our high school students brought up at tonight's meeting, and which is something my middle schooler will not stop talking about, and even argued with me that if AI says it's true, then it must be true. So that is something I'm cautious about, and that we may be grappling with this year. I have a premonition. So just something on my mind that I wanted to get off my chest here. And I thought that this was a very appropriate place to discuss that. So some foreshadowing maybe. So thank you so much. And that'll end my update.
Thank you. I'm going to keep mine pretty brief, but I just wanted to mention that as board members, we have an opportunity for a deeper dive into different programs and services that are offered in our district. And last week, I met with Dr. Soyson, and she shared in detail about the Talented and Gifted program. And there's the academic talented and gifted, and there's also the intellectually gifted students. And there is a process that's to identify the students as TAG. It's kind of similar. A student can be referred by a teacher or even the parent or guardian. And then a team of teachers, instructional assistants, and administrators work to identify those students through a universal screening process that includes comprehensive and culturally responsive assessments. Then they develop a personalized instruction plan called PIP, and it's developed through the collaboration, again, of the teachers as well as the family of the identified student. And then the plan will evolve as the student progresses, and they are able to assess the unique gifts that each student has. Classroom adaptations for the gifted learners in academics can involve research, accelerated curriculum, independent study, enrichment, higher level materials, flexible grouping within the classroom, and fast-paced grouping amongst their peers. There's also another example of just the book box. The teachers work with the students, know their level, and they can put a higher level reading book in their book box for them to work on. There's AP classes in high school, and that can provide an enrichment opportunity as well. There are enrichment programs like robotics, chess, and the Oregon Reader's Choice Award. The teachers receive professional development that is ongoing to follow the standards of ODE. And I just wanted to mention to parents that there's going to be TAG information is always a part of the K through 12 curriculum night presentations. And then there's an annual October meeting that's available as a webinar to get more information. There's many opportunities for students to receive TAG services within the classroom and through enrichment programs. A student can be identified as TAG in general intellectual ability, academic ability, creative ability, leadership ability, and ability in the visual or performing arts like dance and music. which is something that I didn't know. I thought it was more geared toward academics, and I was happily surprised that it's very expansive, because all students have gifts and unique learning needs, and the district does collaborate with students and their families to create a plan to encourage growth in their learning. Thank you. Dr. Ludwig.
Thank you for that nice description of the program. And thank you, Dr. Soyson, for your time with that and your leadership. Okay, great. There's my report. Next slide. So we've started school. We're in our third week already, and I don't have much to say that hasn't already been either shared by board members or our 3 high school students, but we have been busy, and even in my visits the first couple days of school, teachers were right into the syllabus, and kids were already doing early literacy lessons, and there was just kind of this sense of a seamless connection from where we left off in the spring. I would say that a common theme I would hear from principals is it's been actually a really smooth start. And they were almost cautious saying it, knock on wood. And that said, you know, we do recognize it's not perfect for everybody, and that as well as we could plan, there are still phone calls around, we were surprised about that class placement, or we were surprised about our child's schedule, or a busing hiccup, or something that didn't go as well as maybe a family had hoped. And we know we missed the mark from time to time, and we want to thank our families for their patience as they made phone calls, and we did our best to respond. We have over 8,000 students, close to 9,000, multiplied by families and grandparents and caregivers, and it's a lot of phone calls sometimes to respond to when things haven't gone as well as we would have hoped they would. So we thank parents for their patience as we work to get back to those phone calls, and for understanding, as you mentioned, Director Shoemaker, that we are a slimmer staff trying to keep up with still all the same expectations that our community has. So I want to especially thank Jeremy Nichols for fielding many of those phone calls. We had some missteps with some busing communication, and he was incredibly gracious, often working through weekends and nights to get back to family members and to work with First Student on some of those busing concerns. So thank you. Next slide. I was going to talk about what we've noticed with cell phones, and it was a theme with our principals and with our students. So I'm not going to say much that isn't already. You can see on this slide there some of the things that we've been noticing about student engagement. We're talking about the why during life and advisory classes, not just it's a rule, so do it, but why is it better for us to have more social contact with each other and put the phones away? Some things we've had to plan for. We've had to buy cameras for our classes. We've had to buy wired earbuds. We've had to make sure there are calculators, because we've gotten accustomed to students wanting to use their phones for those things, and the generosity of them using their own devices. And now we need to supply those. So if there's an unfunded mandate to kind of add to the list, maybe this one qualifies as that, but it hasn't been an exorbitant amount, but it is something we're having to plan for, as you heard from some of our students. They have been so remarkably supportive and cooperative with this change. And really, you know, staff sometimes have this apologetic, oh my gosh, I saw it, I think I need to take your phone, and students have been, oh, I'm so sorry I had it out, you know. So there's this interchange of graciousness among students and staff that has really been pleasant to notice and experience. Sometimes parents are the ones with more questions. How will I now get in touch with my student? And I thought we would just put a little reminder up here. Don't forget, every classroom has a phone. So maybe think back 15 years ago, how did you get in touch, or how did your parents get in touch with your school when you had a doctor's appointment? So every classroom has a phone. We still have school offices with phones that parents can call. They can have the student come up to the office to receive the message, or a message sent to the classroom. And because we have an open campus lunch for our high schools, there is that time when they're off campus that they could connect with their families if they need to. You'll see a screenshot on this slide that shows a website. We have a lot of information on our website around this new change in this legislative, well, not legislative, but executive order and the policy. You spent quite a bit of time last year as a school board. Is one of your goals working on actions or asking staff to work on actions to update some of our processes and procedures around interrupting bias and discrimination and anti-racism. And I just wanted to share with you that all those changes are now uploaded on our website, or they're in the Student Rights and Responsibility Handbook, or they're linked to the website and are active. And we're prepared now for the community and for our staff and students to interact with those changes. The Speak Up at School professional development that we did last year for all of our staff, now we're moving into lessons for our students. So staff have been developing those lessons, and I will give you an update on that in a future time. Next. You have in front of you your new table tents with your board goals, and I thought I would use the goals as a way to kind of organize my next few slides to share with you some of the updates already and the work we're doing that's connected to the board goals and some of the plans we have to support you and also the organization with these goals. So the first one, together we'll focus on safety and financial sustainability by supporting and passing the capital bond. And then you have a sentence about starting the budget process earlier and continuing it throughout the year. We have developed a website in support of this goal about information about the capital bond. So board members can link to that, as well as anybody that you're connecting the community to. Information is being generated to provide to the community. And I do want to recognize Mr. Andrew Kilstrom, who's up in the tech booth up there. And if you can stand and wave. You will see Mr. Kilstrom often in these next few months as he makes his way to PTA meetings and curriculum nights and neighborhood association meetings and athletic and activity events across the district. His social calendar is full. And his role is to provide information, and we will be making sure that gets out, as well as flyers to be sent home or mailers. So I want to thank him for that. Next slide. The second half of that goal is about making sure you have budget information throughout the year and often, and making that transparent for our community. So I just wanted to do a reminder that within our budget for this year, we did make reductions as we communicated to our community. And there's the statistics there of how many licensed staff, classified, and administrators we did end up reducing for when the budget was passed. We also made reductions, as we mentioned, tightened up on what we could service in terms of transportation. We still are compliant with state legislation, but we were making a lot of extra routes and stops based on parent request. And the last 2 years, we have had to curb some of that just due to economics. As you know, we made reductions to supplies and materials and some curriculum spending. Unfortunately, to some professional development. Already our first week in August was 3 days instead of 4, and some reductions to technology services. Those were things, areas that we shared with you as you were working to adopt the budget. Next slide. That said, there are these areas and times when you make the reduction and then you just know you need to actually add something back. We're a very human organization, and we're not generating items in a factory. We're working with classrooms and children and staffing, and we did make some changes. The first one, as we know, we want to thank our licensed staff and administrators who are taking a reduction in their income, their personal income this year of 2 days of pay, in order for us to hire back 6.5 teachers, which we have done. So that was a change since you adopted the budget. And again, we want to thank staff for that personal generosity. After we were getting class sizes figured out and seeing where enrollment was situated, we did need to add back some teachers, particularly to address some high class sizes in K2, which was our priority, and making sure we had some courses in middle and high school that were complete. Also added some hours up to the equivalent of 4 FTE in classified. And we had reduced that administrative position of the custodial supervisor, and we gave it our valiant effort. Thank you, Jeff Chambers, through the summer. And it's just become an area that staff and our team has determined we do need to hire back. And this mostly came from the staff team themselves that felt they were missing that training and the person that they could call literally all hours of the night and on the weekends. And it is just too much for our slim team to take on. So we make those reductions, but then sometimes we have to add back some licensed, add back some classified and one administrative. But as you can see, we've done that judiciously and as conservatively as possible. This was a table that I shared with you at your board retreat. So it is a public document. You saw it at your retreat, and I think it's important that as your board goal suggests that we talk about the budget throughout the year and make sure that we engage with that earlier on. This is a very slim and abbreviated version of what does it look like to have kind of 3 years of a very high level view of the financials. The 24-25 year is over. It's been audited. We're now being audited. We are now in the 25-26. So that yellow column in the middle, go back. There you go, just stay there. Is where we are with the adopted budget today. Of course, we know things change throughout the year, and Dr. Hughes updates you every few months to let you know how things change. But that represents what you see in the budget document, that moment in time when you adopted it, in terms of the previous ending fund balance, the revenue of the general fund, the expenditures, the difference. Of course, there's an $8 million difference there in the negative, but because we had that $14 million ending fund balance that we carried over, it's giving us for this year currently a $6.2 million ending fund balance, with a built-in $1 million contingency if we don't need to spend it. That serves then in the blue column as a carryover in the 26-27 year, already less than the 14 million that we benefited from this year. As Director Shoemaker mentioned, we only get that 2% increase in our general fund revenue, but it's a 7% increase in expenditure. And that is mostly very typical across school districts in Oregon. It reflects the change in payroll costs. As of course, other kind of costs can vary less than 7%, or like our insurance rate went up 19%. So some are higher. But when 85% of a budget is staffing, that's kind of where we applied that 7%. Once again, creating that gap. And with a less amount in our carryover, we would be looking at a negative ending fund balance the following year. Of course, we're not there yet. We're where we are, and anything we can do this year to keep generating savings helps the year of 26-27. And as we engage you, the board, and our community and our budget committee earlier on, as per your goal, we'll be thinking about the implications of it. Again, we have not audited yet the 24-25 year, so we wait for that to happen. And we live through the 25-26 year, and anything we can actualize savings this year is beneficial. What the yellow column does not represent in there yet are the ups and downs that you'll see in those monthly reports. We got a savings in the PERS, but you also just saw that we added back staff of $860,000. So those kind of cancel each other out. We have some finances coming to us from the reimbursement of attorney fees, you've set that aside. That's not sitting in there yet, but those are kinds of financials that we can talk about over the coming months. Next. Your second board goal is about examining the efficacy of our inclusion model and getting feedback from students, families, and staff. And I'll be we'll be sharing a draft agenda with our board chairs on Tuesday, but our work session on September 22nd is to address that board goal. Next. Your third board goal is around monitoring the progress of student achievement. You're working on that already as you make these site visits out to schools, and we will have one of those quarterly board updates on October 6th. Next. Your fourth goal is around engaging in strategic planning for school facilities and programs by assessing the needs of our students, families, and staff and analyzing current and projected population and demographic data. Giving that goal, we have contacted Flow Analytics and asked them to update the 10-year enrollment projection. So right now we have one that's 2 years old, but we're going to go ahead and ask them to update that and give us the next 10 years instead of the next 8 that we now have in the current document. We're going to continue to monitor our enrollment, and you will have a board work session on November 17th to share and to begin the conversation about that. I do want to mention that on our district website was the full process last year of the small schools consideration process. So those may be new to the district with maybe a kindergartner coming in, that don't know about what we were talking about last year, or if they're wondering where all that information is, some of those documents like the Flow Analytics report, that website is still active. It showed everything from the Small Schools Task Force, the meeting agendas, all the documents that were requested that we provided to community members, information from community engagement sessions, because a lot of those conversations were about the district and its projected population, demographic data, and the decline in enrollment. So it's still a very viable and good, strong resource tool that we may connect with in terms of some of the information that's on there as we work through this goal. Next. So an update on enrollment. These are our primary schools, and so the far left column is enrollment as of today, which still can fluctuate. We'll have the 10-day attendance drop, so it might go a little lower. We also have some registrations that are coming in, folks still registering a little late, but it's pretty much settled. You can see compared to the next column to the right that our primary schools are less than what they were the year before. The third column over is the learning capacity of each school building. So some might call it the building capacity. How many students can you fit in that school building? How many was it built to accommodate? We call it learning capacity because not every room is conducive for learning. It's maybe administrative or storage, but these represent classrooms where a K through 5 group of students would be learning, and how many students we can then accommodate in those spaces. And then you can see on the far right column, I've just added what's called a utilization percentage, how much of that building's learning capacity our current enrollment is utilizing. And next slide, you can see the same for middle school is slightly up from enrollment from last year at this time. And that fall enrollment is actually the number in October that we send to the state in 2024. And high school, you can see down below, is down, which leads us to the next slide. You saw one like this last month. On the left, 24-25, what we submitted to ODE. Now, these numbers do include Three Rivers Charter School, whereas the previous slides do not. So if you're doing the math really quick, you'll say, ooh, looks a little different. That's because we have Three Rivers Charter School in these numbers that we have to submit. But you can see the total last year, 8,872, and we're now looking at 8,660. Where does that land in terms of flow analytics projection or prediction of where we would be? We are just a hair over the low scenario. And if you remember, we used a lot of middle scenarios for our conversations. We're now trending closer to that low scenario. Next slide. Our theme, as I mentioned last meeting, is moving forward together, and that does talk about internally how we're moving the work forward together, but also with our community partners. And I just wanted to outline a few events and activities where our staff is going to be engaging with either other school districts or other community groups. The Inclusive Schools Leadership Collaborative, which we started in our school district 4 years ago, we have now petitioned, and it's under the umbrella of COSA, which they are now taking on some of the support and organizing and expanding that effort. To us, it was a real indication that as a state, we are now really looking at systemically thinking about inclusion, and it's coming from a grassroots effort and not a mandate, which just really enriches the conversations. I'll be participating again in the Tri-County Building Bridges of Oregon Collaboration Day. It's held in Beaverton. We'll have staff at the COSA Equity Summit, probably doing some presentations. I want you to know that Dr. Barb Soyson is very active with ODE and Oregon State University and their individual ELD collaboratives. These are invitation-only participation meetings, and so thanks to her leadership work that's well known across the state, Linn-Wilsonville has been invited to be a part of these two collaboratives, and they have some key meetings going on this month. Another way that we can move forward together. You're always welcome to attend one of our joint first responders safety work sessions. I know folks have in the past. And then you all saw the invitation for the Joint Rotaries Luncheon, where we get to talk about our robotics program and thank our community volunteers and partners for their support of our students and our program, which we could not do if we didn't have such strong community partners and parent and community volunteers. So again, it takes all of us moving forward together. And I want to thank our community for their partnership. That's it. That's all I have tonight. Thank you.
All right, the next agenda item is our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Director Douglas, do you want to take a vote?
Thank you, Director Shoemaker. Director Wyatt.
Aye.
Director Salvaggio.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vidal.
Aye.
Chair Sloop.
Aye.
Thank you. We have no public comment.
All right, board business. And first up is the Department of Teacher and Learning, Dr. Soyson.
Okay. Can you hear me? This is a different mic, so I'm not. Should I use this one? Or? So we've had a theme this evening of fall events and coming back to school and all the activities in schools, and just with all that excitement, Division 22 is part of coming back to school. Maybe not as exciting, but in some ways this is a public report, and it's done in the spirit of making sure that there's acknowledgement of Linn-Wilsonville's meeting of some standards. These aren't all the standards we have to meet. There's ongoing data collections. There's things submitted all the time. But this is a piece that every year
we basically run through the same kind of format in doing this. And a couple things that we choose to do as a school district, and it's inspired by you as school board directors, your stance on being transparent, and whenever we can, share the information so that people can see for themselves. For example, on the in the board memo, there were that long list of all of those places. You actually do not need to submit any evidence to ODE. Our district chooses to do that because this will then be posted on our website with the idea that we want people to be able to see this is the work that we are doing, and this is what we mean when we check the box. We don't take checking the box lightly. Also, the work represents so much of the work of others. For example, our high school athletic directors provide us the information about concussions and steroids. We have our social workers who provide us with the information about substance use, just so we have these checkpoints and can collect it and put it together. So as the board member indicated to you, I'm not going to go through a slide presentation, as this is, I think, very familiar to you all, but we will just highlight, if you'd go to slide 9, please. Just this year, our status that Linn-Wilsonville is in compliance with all 59 standards. And there's a couple new areas just to be aware of. And this is the personal finance class needing a 0.5 credit in that, and in higher education and career path skills. And that is something that we have done. The annual diploma information about standard modified extended diplomas and certificate of attendance. Our student services department has crafted that. It goes home. There's a consent just so that people know ahead of time, what it is, what kind of diploma you're looking at. And that's an example of something that's included in our report so people can see it. All classes for high school that are required for diploma offered on site, and then social emotional instructional program and substance use and prevention education. Those are pieces just that we have to, these are new for this school year. And then let's just take a quick look at slide 10, which is the next slide. And again, that's some of the things that we have been doing towards those things that were on the last one. And one of the things that we try to do is look ahead and say, okay, this is coming, and we're not just doing it to meet the standards. And really what happens is these are things that we don't do because it's required by Division 22. Social emotional learning, you can see from even looking at the 7 components that have been in our district and been revised. The graphic has looked a little bit different. Those have been at the front of our work for quite some time. And then if you would go, please, to the slide 11, just so you know what's coming up for next year, slide 12. And this is an example that you have to have if you're a school district under 10,000 students. You have to have an educational equity advisory committee in place. Dr. Ludwig started at the end of the 23-24 school year the process of identifying and setting that up, and then they met for the 24-25 school year. So that's an example of something that was started with, it didn't matter that we weren't one of the larger districts required. Next slide. And we have added the seed survey. That does not need to be in place technically until next year to report on it, but that is something all of our students completed it. We actually got the report on that today with the results. And the ELPA, English Language Proficiency Screener, we have been using that actually since it came out in 2016. So then the very last slide is this is something that we are just getting started at, and that is looking at and revising the administrator standards and that evaluation piece and looking at that and implementing that. We have 2 years to do that, but that's something that is known and that we'll start working on. So again, because this is familiar, if there are questions or comments or observations you have, that's fine, but
Mr. Shoemaker?
Dr. Soisman, the excellent memo work as always. I wanted to ask about the life class seems to take on some responsibility for some of these things, even though sometimes it'll say credit requirement. So if a school has a personal finance class and there's credit requirement, then that credit shows up on a transcript as a credit. Can you give me some help thinking about how do you think about that as we put some different things in life class and how those are meeting the standards?
yes, and if you need more after that, then Dr. Spencer Iams can add. But what those are, both the personal finance and the career pathway one, that 0.5 credit is given based on the actual standards and have they been addressed, not on seat time of actually being in a class. So through life class, it actually fits because even by its title, real life skills, personal finance was something that when we did a high school study in 2016, one of the things that came through from the students and their parents was teach them how to balance a checkbook or something that to that effect. I don't even know if we have checkbooks now that they balance, but the idea was that was something that carried through. We've had a system in place for some years with looking at, we use a program called Naviance and looking at not only the preparation steps, but actually the skills for that. So they fit with the purpose of life class. Now, the schedule at Westland High School and Wilsonville High School allow for that. They are actually taken as courses, though, as I think you're referring to, Director Shoemaker, at Riverside High School, because Riverside does not have the life class. But the idea, what you sign off on, is that those standards are addressed, for students to have that credit. I think we're probably over the mark with, when you look at students have life class for 4 years sort of thing, and we're very careful not to repeat, the information, but to explore and actually work with those things. And the other sort of really authentic part of doing it in life class is students are with those same groups and they have more opportunities for actually using the skills like personal finance and going through as they get closer and closer to graduation for looking at the career paths. But that's how we do it.
Vice Chair Udall?
Could you give me maybe not a few question examples, but just what types of questions are on the Student Educational Equity Development or SEED survey?
There are a lot about the classes they take in school, the experiences they have in school, things about their learning. Are they supported in their learning? It is part of the OSAS assessment, and it came up as something where we want to know how students are doing outcomes wise, but also what's their experience in school. So it's a little bit different than the Panorama survey. There is some overlap with that, but that's its purpose.
Thanks. I note that one of the responsibilities of the Educational Equity Advisory Committee is to report back to the board itself on various impacts of policy decisions. Have we determined what avenue that will take? Will we?
I'm going to have Dr. Ludwig, who facilitates that group, speak to that.
So the legislation around that is that they may report to the board. It's not a requirement. And then if you recall this last year, there was an amendment to the legislation around the EEAC that now it's actually an advisory group with to the superintendent and no longer to the board. My intention is still that you should be hearing what the EEAC is working through, what kinds of comments are coming forward or questions they have or goals they've created, and to share that with you either in the superintendent reports that I provide, or if the board chairs would like to have a separate agenda item as an information only, they could certainly present. Last year, because we did start early, last year we had a board member who was a liaison to the Education Equity Advisory Committee and would comment back to the board in some of his reports. And also the board met as a full board with the EEAC as part of the board goal around examining board policy on anti-racism and getting feedback from that representative group. So there was quite a bit of interaction from the board liaison as well as the board with the committee last year. So we'll look to find ways to share that work with the board this year and going forward as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I just had a question on point 5, where the Family Empowerment Center is involved in providing resources for families about substance use and accessibility based on language and culture. Is that separate or is that integrated into the classes at the schools?
It's like a hub of a resource sort of
Okay,
thing.
resource.
For example, today we made a call just because sometimes it's a place where things are centralized about working out some support for students who were at well, one of them's at a school in Westland, one of them's at a school in Wilsonville. So the program and the day-to-day pieces, those are at the schools, but it is a resource. And more, Lydia Horton at the Family Empowerment Center is coming into and partnering with and passing on. So it's not just this place and this is where you go to take care of that, but really doing lots of collaboration with the schools, from the administrative assistants to the administrative staff, especially in where there's more wider language differences in our Wilsonville schools.
Other questions? Thank you, Dr. Soyson. And
Okay, so and you, I was going to go on to the next report. Oh,
Before she goes on to the next report, I do want to say that I was in a meeting again with all of the superintendents across the state of Oregon, and there was announcements about making sure Division 22 reports were done thoroughly. And the person from ODE who was providing the commentary said, if you want to see an exemplar of Division 22 reports that are done incredibly well, here are 6 school districts, and Weston-Wilsonville was one of them. So I just want to thank Dr. Soyson and the team that provide information and our staff for doing an exceptional job of not just taking all of those compliance standards seriously, but also in the reporting of them. And it's always great to be noticed for good work. So thank you, Dr. Soyson.
okay, so another fall part of our reporting, and this is again just a report, is the English Learners in Oregon report. And if you would go to slide 3, please. So this is annually, and you're always looking back. So this isn't from 24-25. This is from 23-24. Then it's studied, and it just comes out in the summer, sort of thing. So again, just part of the purpose here is looking at Westland-Wilsonville in context. Looking at 11.5 is the students in public schools overall are English learners, 8% in our district. You can see the difference in graduation rates. The The last point is one that I really want to emphasize in our work that we are very much connected to working with. And I will have to say that we actually have things in some partnering with our student services in looking at this. And this might be some students with interrupted educations or students where we really need to look at what's going on. But the recent arrivals, and sometimes you hear the word newcomers used, and that means that students have been consecutively in U.S. schools for less than 3 years. 37% increase in Oregon, but 61% increase in our district. And from the 22-23 report. And so I think some of it is, we really didn't have any newcomers before the pandemic. And so part of that is why that looks so dramatic. But do know that we have a newcomer handbook that has been developed for families, that we have really been looking at some of these resources. And then another thing to just take a look at, next slide, please, is looking at how our students are doing. So again, there's some state comparisons. One of the challenges with these percentages here is it's a relatively smaller group of students. And unlike when you look at results for all students, or mostly when you look at students in special education, you're looking at the same group of students every year. In ELD, you're not, because they exit the program. And then if, for example, you have this influx, a great influx of newcomers. So we just always have to put these results in context. But there you can see just the looking at English language arts and percentage med exceeded, both in Oregon and then in Linn-Wilsonville. And then in ninth grade, or in high school, we really look at other measures that are actually tell us more about how they're doing, because the OSAS is only given once in 11th grade. So for 4 years of high school, that is not as useful to us. But looking at on track to graduate, and then the 4-year graduation rate is one where we see a real dramatic increase. Another way that Linn-Wilsonville sort of made the statistics page in this report was we are one of the districts listed as having 60 or more languages. And that surprises us because there are certainly other school districts where there's larger percentages of multilingual learners. For example, Woodburn. But the number of languages we have is what is really interesting to us. Someone here at the this evening was talking about that we have an assessment that we use for high school students so that they can get credit and a seal of biliteracy. And we're looking at, do we need to get an exam in Lithuanian this year? Because that's not one that we find very often. So again, this is just an update report. Do know that our own district, we submit EL plans. We opted to be part of a pilot group and completed ours last year. It's been approved, but it's not published yet, so I couldn't share it or attach it. But there were 37 districts in the state that participated in that, and we were one of them. And our own ELD coordinator, Annette Ayala, has actually been asked to be and is now on the EL Learners board that kind of oversees this process. So we're getting increasingly involved in this work in our state. So unless there's questions.
Director Soyson, thank you so much. I see that the state figures from the 9th grade on track to 4-year graduation rate kind of stay near each other as expected. And I'm not complaining about this, ours just kind of jets ahead from 73 to 96%. Is that outperformance limited to the English learner cohort, or are we seeing that in other areas? And I guess, if so, I guess my question generally is, what are we doing right about that?
Well, with the graduation rate overall, our graduation rate is very high. What is a bit unusual is there's usually more of a gap between students who are English learners and students who are not English learners. I will say at both of our high schools, there has been a lot of increased work with helping students, really get what they need from things that we need to do to get credits, sort of thing. And we need to credit them where they certainly do not wait until they're juniors, to start looking at that. Actually, in 8th grade, in transitioning to high school is when we look at that. So I don't know if I answered your question, but our overall graduation rate is high.
But that satisfies my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ludwig, did you want to say something?
Well, I mentioned this in my superintendent report, but it's worth mentioning again. Dr. Soyson has been a fierce advocate for our multilingual learners, for our dual language program, not just in our own community, but across the state. You go to a conference, she is well recognized and known and invited to be on various, as you mentioned, pilot groups, as well as collaboratives. When Oregon State University could pick from anywhere across the state, Linn-Wilsonville was one of the districts that they sought out for their work with English language development. And that's to the credit of Dr. Soyson's interest, personally and professionally, but also her longstanding dedication. And we're just so grateful. And she meets often with staff. She knows them by first name. She knows about their families. She knows families in the district, and her personal attention and care goes above and beyond her professional responsibility. And when you say, what does it take to do things right? It's a lot of people, really caring individually for every single student, and then having a support network around that care. So teachers know that they can call Barb and get the support they need. And so I just want to thank you again for all that you've done.
All right. Now we have our capital bond measure 3-629 update. Director Wyatt, do you want to lead us off?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And I prepared a few slides for us, but just want to start off by reminding our community that passing a successful capital bond or local option levy really requires kind of this three-legged stool of support. And it starts with all of this great staff work that's been done and all of the staff information work that they put into putting factual, non-influential information out into the community. And then the next piece comes from all of us as a school board. And, on our board goals, our number one goal is to focus on safety and financial sustainability. And we have this unanimous support as a school board. But then the last piece is running an advocacy campaign. And we are limited because we can't meet as groups of more than 2. So we don't have an accidental quorum. And so this is where a lot of the coordination of making that stool balance comes into play. And so what I'd like to share tonight is just some progress we've made on the advocacy side of things, but then also to spend some time recognizing all of the great staff work that's gone in, as well as the work across the full school board to show support for this bond measure. So just a quick update from the advocacy side of things. If we can go to the next slide. Today was the deadline to get letters of support into the voters pamphlet. The voters pamphlet is sent to every voter. It is a source of information after someone gets their ballot. And so we were able to submit 6 letters of support, 1 from the school board, 1 that was co-authored by our 2 state representatives and 2 state senators, Another that was authored by the mayors of Westland and Wilsonville. A fourth that was signed on by current and former members of our long range planning committee. The fifth was from the newly formed Westland Wilsonville Education Foundation, and then a sixth from our 2 employees unions. And so I think, our goal in reaching out to get 6 letters was to show the widespread support for this bond, and to show a variety of perspectives, because we have mayors talking about community livability. We have our state representatives and senators talking about strengthening our school district. The foundation talks about how investing in the bond frees up operational dollars for teaching positions. And so I'm really excited about that. And this is an example of kind of all hands on deck, where folks who are working on the advocacy campaign, as well as school board members, did outreach to get these letters in the voters pamphlet. So you can expect to see quotes from these letters in our communications about the bond, but then most importantly in that voters pamphlet. Next slide. We have started to put together our communications materials, and we have the happy pencil to show people that this is a bond worth paying attention. We wanted it to be Andrew Killstrom as our mascot because he's out in the community, but it was too hard to turn him into a cartoon. So the happy pencil is out in the community, or will be out in the community, reminding people to vote yes. And that's to support safety, athletics, and modernization products. Next slide. Our website is active, and our next task is to build out our website with information from the advocacy campaign. The address is welovewlwv.com, and it has information about the bond campaign from our vantage point as an advocacy effort. Next slide. We also have fundraising set up now. Our PAC is We Love Westland Wilsonville Schools. If you go to the website, you can make a donation. If you're in the audience and you want to scan that QR code, you can do that right now and make a donation. A reminder that donations up to $50 are tax deductible. Oh, no. Oh, tax creditable. So just read the legal information on the website. But this is a great way to make a difference in helping us get the word out about the advocacy campaign to vote yes. And then next slide. Our big goal was to get to today's deadline to get those letters in voters pamphlet. So coming soon, as you heard earlier from Vice Chair Vidal, you'll see school board members and especially Andrew Killstrom at PTA meetings and curriculum nights spreading the word. We will soon have signups out for yard signs. We'll be looking for volunteers to help with canvassing. And then really importantly, starting to fine tune our communications on projects. So for example, in the last week, we've heard questions about turf and track replacement at the high school. And so you will see the happy pencil sharing information to clear up any sort of questions that are out in the community about what this bond is going to fund. And so I encourage everyone here, if you hear questions coming in that you think need clarification in the community, let us know and we'll build that into our outreach, because we did do some outreach to some youth sports, and their first question was, what athletics are funded? And so being able to share some of that information was really helpful, and we were able to pull that directly from the informational campaign from staff. So we'll be out and about starting to get more of those messages out now that we've hit that major milestone of voters pamphlet statements. And so with that, that's the update as of tonight. Huge thanks to Director Salvaggio for navigating the voters pamphlet filing forms. Also to some of our community volunteers, Ryan Ingersoll and Alexandra Smith, for helping to wrangle letters as well. And then obviously this full school board for their support. So that's kind of the main update here from the advocacy side of things, but also want to give huge thanks to our staff for putting together a really robust information campaign that will be out and about, getting the word out to all of our patrons. So thank you.
Any other board members want to chime in?
Did you need one of us to go to the Wilsonville boosters or the Westland High School boosters? Or should we talk about that offline or could we? Yeah.
It's actually a great, that's a great jumping off point question for any group in our communities who are interested in supporting the bond.
Yeah.
We did have a deadline of today to get it in the voters pamphlet, but
Yes, but I mean us.
yes. And so we know that there are other groups that might be interested
Mhm.
in doing a letter to the editor in the paper or a
Yeah.
social media post. And so absolutely, we did some outreach to youth soccer and youth football and
Oh.
haven't heard back. We've also done some outreach to robotics and just they had a longer process for getting signed on. So I
Okay.
think if anyone has groups that they think are interested in supporting this,
Mhm.
if it's helpful, you can kind of funnel them through Director Salvaggio or me.
Okay.
Or if it's something that you just need informational materials, you can get that from staff. Or if you need advocacy materials, I can get that for you. So the time is not up for us to get lots of people to sign on for this. Today was just the deadline for that voters pamphlet. So yes, let's make sure that we cover those bases.
I may have missed this, but I'm going to ask, is there information from the school district that's available that the board members could use in the messaging? So we're saying the same thing at our curriculum nights and our PTA meetings? Did I miss it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the Capital Bond website, it's just you can find it right on the homepage of the district or school websites. The URL is www.wlw.k12.or.us/2025 bond. It's very short, concise. We will post all of our education materials there. Currently, our foundational flyer, which is really the nuts and bolts information of the bond, is there, and you can download that and print it. Anyone in the community has access to that.
And we do have some stump speeches written in our materials. We will have handouts that we'll be using for canvassing from the advocacy side of things, which again is a unique role that we get to play that staff can't play. And so, sometimes the information that they share, it's just the straight facts. And we can give some more perspective on like why voting yes is a good thing. Whereas they just say, here's what happens if you vote yes, or here's what happens if you vote no.
If I may, to perhaps a related point, there are at times community questions about the history of our process. Where did numbers come from and all those sorts of things. And just to note that full process, as the staff worked with the Long Range Planning Committee, all of the documents related to those processes are still on the website. You can see the minutes from the meetings, all of the attached documents, everything that the Long Range Planning Committee received and eventually came to the board for that process. So if there's any questions out there about the particular costs of individual things, that information is readily available online.
All right. I will let you know ahead of time now, Kirsten, that I can do the sign distribution, like pick up at Willamette Park in Westland, and I can do the library again. So count me in on helping get the signs out. I do have a question in regards to the capital bond that back in the 2019 is in the long range planning. Are there items in that plan that have been deferred to the current proposed bond for 2025? And I know part of that was, COVID, not everything could be happening during COVID. And then, like if there was an estimate, and then what are those items, particularly like any of the roofing projects that were deferred from the 2019 bond?
Sure. I think I understand the question. I think first, the most important thing about cost information that we have prepared before a bond passes is that the word estimate is very deliberate. And so, the board has heard me say over a number of years now. We never expect that each project will be done for the value estimated before we had a design. For instance, in a roof, you pull that old roofing material off and there may be a lot more work to do beneath that we weren't aware of, because we don't spend the many millions of dollars one would need to fully get into all the detail of every project in advance. And so it is not only not unusual, but expected that some projects may cost more or less. We always work to complete the total package for the total amount available. In terms of, projects that you may see similar wording on the 19 bond and the 2025 bond, for instance, roofing at Beckman Creek. I think the important thing to note there is that there are 19 bond projects that have been, we said, postponed. And that's not to say that the work associated with those dollars won't be completed with 19 bond dollars. But the board's well aware of the termination of significant contractors, as well as COVID and the various other interesting things of the last 5 or 6 years. And so some of those final small projects have been put on hold until we get fully through the process with our surety, dealing with those 2 major contracts and those terminations. But yes, in the example of Beckman Creek, there is funding for roofing at Beckman Creek in both. And the district between those funds is committed to fully re-roofing Beckman Creek. And we hope in the next few months to be able to confirm that we're on sound footing for completing Athey Creek Middle School and Frog Pond Primary School with the sureties. And that provides us the confidence to move forward with the last few projects in the 19 bond. I hope that is more words than you might have expected, but hopefully useful.
Yeah, so funds from the capital bond that's coming up in November 2025, that's to kind of help bridge the price gap now from an estimate that was 5 years previously. Is that so? Funds will be from 2019 that are already reserved, and then adding to funds from the 2025 for the bond.
No, the 19 bond contemplated portions of the roofing at Beckman Creek. It was never expected that that bond would fully, completely replace the roof. And then there are additional dollars, and
Right.
between those, however things play out, the district will work very hard to make sure that the full roofing is replaced at Beckman Creek.
Okay. And then some of those items from 2019 were more like mission important, and now they're becoming mission critical.
That is correct.
Okay.
As time progresses, projects become more urgent. The end of useful life of various systems edges towards us over time. And so, yeah, the board saw again as the 2025 scope, there were A, B, and C priorities. And yeah, some of those items that were a B or a C 5 and 10 years ago have become A's. Correct.
Director Savaggio.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. As long as we're on the subject of roofing, I just want to make a quick note and indicate that in addition to just the roofing itself, I hope that we incorporate all necessary safety precautions and safety features such as roofing anchors. I think that in the last few years, we've had an interface with OSHA, and I think I just want to say, for at least my record, if there's a project that we can't afford to do safely, then we can't afford to do it.
Yes, 100% agreed. The roofing projects where we are replacing roofing do contemplate increasing the amount of roof safety equipment that is up on those roofs. Our recent roofing projects under the 2019 bond included a number of those, as well as we have a separate pool of money dedicated to locating those most critical locations on existing roofs, and we will be adding anchors and additional supports there to improve roof safety, whether or not we're doing roofing in those areas. And we've been working with a consultant that this is what they do. They design and provide recommendations for those systems, and working with them on the tiers of prioritization for those. And we will take those efforts as far as the money allows.
Questions from the board? Dr. Ludwig? Okay, thank you. And the last of the board business is pertaining to Oregon School Board Association's Legislative Policy Committee. Last year, Director Vidal and myself, along with Dr. Ludwig, were very active with OSBA, but we were just representing our district as school board members. And the OSBA actually has a Legislative Policy Committee, and they act as kind of a liaison between and offering communication between the state government and what's being proposed during their sessions, and then what OSBA is wanting to have for advocacy, as well as the school boards. And so on this Legislative Policy Committee are regional representatives. And there's, is it 12? 19, 19. Anyway, so we have some interest. And so I was wondering if we have a nomination for the regional board to serve on the Legislative Policy Committee.
Yes, I will nominate Director Salvaggio on the regional board of the Oregon School Board Association Legislative Policy Committee.
I'll enthusiastically second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Director Salvaggio, you want to share a few points?
Just as way of discussion, I'll say that for the last, I think 23 years, I've been involved deeply in Oregon public policy on a professional level. It's been my pleasure to do that professionally. It would be my honor to do that for free. To benefit to benefit and give back to my community in that way.
Discussion? All right, Director Douglas, take a vote.
Thank you. Director Shoemaker.
Aye.
Director Wyatt.
Aye.
Director Salvaggio.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vidal.
Aye.
Chair Sloop.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Right. And then there's actually an election, a regional election that's in October, but this nomination has to be submitted by the end of the month. So that's why we're voting on it now. And then the last item on our agenda is public comment. And do we have one? I'm going to read the rules for public comment. Thank you for taking the time from your day to share and use your voice and take part in informing the school board of your opinions, thoughts, recommendations regarding district action. Your involvement is valued and appreciated. So as I said, we have one sign up for comment. The public comment time is a time the board uses to collect information rather than engage in a dialogue. The board encourages speakers not to mistake the board's silence for a lack of interest or care. We are listening carefully and probably taking notes. If you are asking the district or board to respond or provide information, please provide your contact information with the district or board secretary so the appropriate person may follow up with you. The public comment time is not a forum for singling out individual district employees or students for complaints. If you have a complaint about an individual student or district employee, please do not mention them by name or provide information that would allow for them to be identified. Please use the district complaint process accessible on our website to help resolve individual situations of concern. The public comment time is for addressing the board and not an audience. All comments will be given their due respect by the board. Similarly, we ask the members of the audience to be respectful of the speakers and refrain from giving cheers, claps, or negative noises, such as booing, when a member of our public is speaking or has concluded speaking. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. If 3 minutes is not enough time, you are welcome to reach out to the district office or board at a later time or submit materials to the board or district. All right, so Charles or Chip? Carrier? Yes. All right.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening. Many of you have heard from me before, so I'll try to keep this brief. Thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm here on behalf of my child and 9 other children in our neighborhood who attend Trillium Creek Primary School. Currently, they do not have a reasonable bus stop despite living outside the school's walkable boundaries. We understand the district policy states that students K through 8 who live more than 1 mile from the school will be transported, and that in-district transfers are not guaranteed a bus stop. The dual language program, however, is not specifically included in either policy. In addition, we have identified stops that are out of boundary and also within 1 mile of the school, some of which serve fewer children than our bus stop would. The current routing also does not seem efficient, with 4 bus routes operating just within just half a mile of each other. Many stops are less than a quarter of a mile from each other, and in some cases less than 500 feet apart, which suggests there's room to consolidate routes while still maintaining access. We're simply asking for both consistency and fairness in how the transportation policy is applied. Our group represents 10 children, more than enough to justify a stop based on student count alone. And we believe that adding a stop in our neighborhood will not only support equity among families, but also enhance overall efficiency by balancing routes more thoughtfully. We respectfully ask that the district reconsider and approve a bus stop in our neighborhood, just as it has done in comparable cases. Thanks for your time and commitment to all of our students' well-being and access to learning. Thank you.
Comment. We as a board, we hear you, and the district office will reach out to you via email or after the meeting. And again, we appreciate it and thank you. All right. I'm now going to adjourn this meeting at 8:20. Meeting adjourned.